Hey everyone, welcome back to our podcast, Signature Ways. And today we have a special guest. She has been in the real estate industry for 26 years, is a veteran from the Air Force, and just runs a fantastic, huge business in Colorado. And especially, she is my mom. So I am so excited to bring her to the stage, and I get teary eyed every time I talk about it, but I'm just so grateful to have her in my life. She is the reason that I became super organized and built this company. And without further ado, would like to introduce my mom, Michelle.
And here I am crying because you did it again. You made me cry again. So
Yeah, for
great way
those
to start.
what she's referred to is we had started the podcast and I realized I was not recording. So we are starting off strong today, but that is all right.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. Keep it real. Everyone knows.
Yeah,
We all have little bumps in our roads. So
exactly.
yes.
So, well, tell me about, well, I know the story, but tell everyone else about how you got into real estate.
Well, that's a fun one, isn't it? So the main reason, I have three reasons I got into real estate. The biggest reason I would say is because of you and your brother at the time. So um, for those that don't know Savannah, she has four other siblings. So I had five children, but at the time I got into real estate, I only had two. So I had Savannah and her brother Braden. And the most important thing to me in my whole life has been being a mom. It's been what I've lived for. It's everything to me. So I'll tear about that because it's truly the greatest gift there is. Well, I needed something that was flexible, that would allow me time to spend time with the kids, and we can readdress the flexibility later on. But you probably remember Savannah, the red minivan,
Mm-hmm.
and watching the movies as I was being showing a house, and you would be out there with your brother in the driveway watching a movie. And it was the best way that I could be a mom and help support the family. Second reason, it's kind of a creeper way, but I really liked looking in windows. So at night, I remember in Sylvania, Ohio, we lived back there. I'd drive down those beautiful old homes, and I'd look in the windows. And I was like, gosh, I wonder what the house looks like
From the street.
from the street. From the street. No, no, I wasn't creeping up to the glass pane, but yeah, from the street. And so I'm like, that was one reason. But then the real impetus that pushed me over the edge was when we sold our house where you met your best friend Alyssa back in Michigan. And I felt during that sale, that transaction, that there were some things that could have been done better, maybe a little differently, that I would have done differently. So I really was encouraged to go get my license and took off to hit the ground running. I had 3 listings my first month, and I've just haven't stopped since. It's been fantastic.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
And the whole flexibility thing that you said will address, right? Like there's so many people I hear when they first get in the business, they're like, oh, I'm just ready. I just need something that's super flexible. And I chuckle because I'm like, okay, there are 2 different ways this could go. I'm like, either you understand that, yes, you have some flexibility, right? You don't have to ask permission to be like, hey, I'm going to go travel. But when a buyer calls,
Boom, you got to go. And for those agents out there that don't know, the best way to get a deal is to travel. So the moment you take off on a vacation, you're going to get a lot of leads and a lot of calls. But no, that is true, and I think that's the biggest struggle that I see a lot of people have. Some of my agents also on our teams. When if you're 100% committed to your real estate company, you're available to your clients pretty much 24/7. Well, I try to turn the phone off at 7. Sometimes we have clients that they don't get off work till 5 or 6. And they need to go see a house at night. There's weekends, obviously, are an important time to show homes. So I think the biggest thing is, and you spoke about this when you were on the MREA podcast. So congratulations to you on that. Huge achievement. But you spoke about balance versus rhythm. And nothing's ever in perfect balance. Nature isn't in perfect balance. It has to have some imperfections. And so the same with our work and social life. We have to make sure that we balance or schedule in time for our family, time for fun. For me, I work out every morning. That's my time. I get to meditate. I teach boxing. I like my time to reframe my brain. So, we don't have showings at 8 in the morning, thank goodness. So I can schedule that in there. But yeah, the flexibility piece is definitely, it's a tricky one.
It is. It really is. Yeah. Because it's hard, buyers call and they're like, hey, we want to go see this house on, Saturday at 1. And you're like, okay, awesome. Well,
Right.
now I got to move 8 other things around. And I think it's just part of having your family or those around you understand when you get into real estate, what that looks like.
Yeah, and I see that a lot. You see a lot of families, because you and I are on our phone quite often, obviously handling deals and negotiating contracts and that sort of thing. And luckily, our family's super supportive, and they know that what we're doing is providing not only for the family, but providing more so as a benefit to. I view our work as it's kind of like a ministry for myself of helping people, because if you are engaging in real estate correctly, you are such an important piece of these people's lives, but you are a steward to their well-being. And real estate isn't just about houses. It's actually, the houses are the byproduct. It's the people that we take care of. And when you understand that you're serving people, and that's really what you're doing, I think your family can also look at it differently. And also on the backside of that, again, reiterating, try to set that phone down at 7. You are really great at sending getting Sundays off. You make sure that you block your Sundays off. Mm-hmm. So having that time is non-negotiable, except for a very, very rare circumstance. Right. I think that's really important.
Yeah. Yeah. A huge part for me is 5 to 6 or 5 to 6, 6 to 8 o'clock at night, really limiting that. Now, granted, I'll know there are days that you just know things are going to come up between those times, right? But for me, I'm not the one that's going out and showing houses most of the time. There are the occasions that I need to go do that, where people, friends of mine, but yet then I know I can pack Mabel up, and she helps actually tour the homes and tells them all about the houses. I don't have
just like you used to do. Yeah. And it's, that's the beauty about it. Several of my agents, one's actually expecting a baby any day, and the other one homeschools. They both, 2 of them actually homeschool their sons. And, what great flexibility. I mean, I encourage them, bring them in the office, bring them along with you. What better way to learn than to have your kids engaged in industry? And if you have the right client base, most of the time, they don't mind that there's a child there. As a matter of fact, they like it. So I think, changing the old paradigm of business looks like this without kids, I don't think that's reality. I think the reality is, if you have children, they're part of your life, just like you were when we homeschooled, and you worked in family businesses your whole life. So it's a good way to involve the kids. It really is.
Yeah. It taught me a lot of great life lessons. So at a young age.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So keeping on that serving path that you were just talking about, I really want to dive into kind of the veterans today, because that is something that you really have honed on and done a lot of marketing around, but yet truly care deeply about. So tell me, why are you passionate about veterans?
Well, the list is very long, but I can be in. So as you know, I served in Desert Storm, and now I'm married to a wonderful man, and he also served overseas as a combat medic and intelligence operations. And we met at the VFW, which was wonderful. So we were really, we already were service-minded around veterans, but I actually started Veterans Housing Network back in 2019. And the reason I founded it is because veterans understand veterans better. I understand that most veterans aren't going to want to live underneath a helipad or next to a helipad or underneath, flight paths of something. But even more so is, a veteran can smell insincerity from a mile away. And what I found in the marketplace is, veterans and seniors are the most preyed upon 2 demographics there are. When you're representing seniors right now, I don't know if any of these agents have sat in a house, the phone rings and rings and rings, and it's spam, it's scam, it's horrible. These seniors get inundated with it. Same, not as bad as the phone calls with veterans, but there's predatory practices out there. A major national company preys on veterans considerably, and they guide under the guise of doing good things for them, when if you look at their settlement sheets, they are charging the veterans tens of thousands more dollars than are necessary, and usually a higher interest rate. I thought we could do better than that. So I founded Veterans Housing Network, which is the nation's only veteran-to-veteran real estate referral network, that we educate and empower veterans how to use their VA loan. Because I was showing homes back there in Windsor, on the Front Range, and another Desert Storm veteran was looking at a home that I was showing. He's my age, just 55, right around there. He was actually a little bit older than I am. And he's like, I've been saving my VA loan to use. I've been saving it. And I was like, like what? So if people don't know this, when you get out of the military, they don't teach you how to use your benefits. No one educates you on how to use your VA loan, the fact that you can use your VA loan multiple times, that you can buy multi-unit properties with it, that if you have even a 10% disability, you don't have a funding fee. There are so many pieces that you could be educated with on the VA loan that I knew we could do better. So I just became passionate about helping people. And, veterans were that class, because I understand veterans and they seem to like to help better. And I'd say that currently still about 90% of my clients end up being veterans because we just get it. We go into a house, typically they don't mess around. They're not gonna say, well, why do you think they painted the walls blue? No, they're like in and out. They like it or they don't. And they are just pragmatic that way. And I like that. So just serving. It's all about serving.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Melanie cut this part. How can agents serve veterans respectively without turning it into a okay. Okay. So when it comes into serving for veterans, what are some tips that people should know when they're going in to serve a veteran to make sure it doesn't sound markety or try to take a market angle to it? Because a lot of times I see these things of like, oh, well, if you're a VA this, or, here's a credit if you're this, which is, be very careful with that with RESPA, please. If anyone listening, please know your local laws with that kind of stuff. But how do you actually serve veterans?
Well, I think the biggest way to serve a veteran is to actually have knowledge. So that is the one thing that I find time and time again. I just had a contract come through on a house, and they were like, well, I don't know if it's going to pass VA inspection, the VA appraiser, because it has an old electrical system. And I was kind enough to send over the VA guidelines to that agent. But I would say, I'm probably not, I'd say 80% of the agents that I deal with that are not veterans, that are super proficient at VA loans, don't understand the requirements of it. They're totally misled, and they have old-fashioned ideas of what it means to have a VA loan. I'd like to reframe. So let's start here. The VA loan is not a gift. It's not a gift. People have served have earned that. So when a seller says, well, I don't know if I would take a VA loan, they don't have any skin in the game. They're not putting money down. They're not a serious buyer. They signed a check for their life. So they've paid for that VA loan already. And the fact that people minimize it, its value is very disheartening, because that is one of the greatest honors you can do, is accept a veteran and their VA loan. So I think just first of all, educating yourself that this is not a gift and we're not lucky to have it. We have earned the right to use a VA loan. And so that's the first piece that needs to change in this whole situation. The next piece is just understanding how the VA loan works and what the appraiser is looking for. There are actually very few requirements, but they need to make sure that they have access to the house. So if it needs an easement, they need to have access to the house. Of course, the roof has to be at a certain level, just like any government-backed loan. So FHA, VA, and USDA, they all have very similar requirements. And VA is no tougher than any of those. And as a matter of fact, a VA loan is better. It is typically lower in interest rate than any conventional loan. And I've had my lenders close VA loans in up to 10 days. So they can be very quick. They're not time consuming. This last transaction I just spoke about with the electrical system, I sent the agent over the guidelines. I was quite confident that electrical system was going to pass. I briefed my clients that the fascia was going to have to be painted because they had some rough fascia there. We closed that deal in less than 30 days, and everyone was happy and smiling and walking away. And it wasn't going to happen in the beginning because the agent thought it wouldn't pass because of the electrical system. And I see that more often than not. One more example, in Fort Collins, I sold a veteran a home that had a cistern. And the agent had listed that they wouldn't accept a VA loan. And when I asked him why, he said, well, because it has a cistern. And that's not a requirement either. So you can have a cistern. It has to have a water supply. And that qualified for that because of where it was in the mountains. So I think education, if you want to serve veterans, educate yourself. If you've never had a veteran client and you don't know about VA loans, just go on ChatGPT, learn about it. It's not that hard to give yourself a little bit of knowledge and sound proficient, because it's kind of embarrassing when you don't know what you're talking about. And veterans know, like, if you start to BS us, we know right away. So.
Well, and I think part of that too, right, is that if you're in this business to serve people truly, then knowing the product that they might be using to purchase a home is pertinent to make sure that you are helping them maximize every benefit at their disposal. And part of that too is then having a competent lender too, right? Because I think there's I've been in rooms where lenders say one-off things and I'm like, when did that change? And then I go back to my trusted source and they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, cool.
Right.
So a lot of it is, right, making sure that you surround yourself with other professionals. And I think that's one thing, right? Like, we always get offered to do these one-off deals that maybe we're not necessarily proficient at. either really educate yourself and dedicate extra time to that deal so you can make sure you're helping the client correctly, for two reasons. One, to make sure your client gets what they need, but second, so you don't get sued.
There's always
Right?
that.
Like there's that, or lose your license. And two, it's, pull somebody else into the deal or refer it out, because there is people out there that can definitely help you through this process to make sure that you can help the client to the best of their ability.
And it's your job. I tell people this, you must be exceptional at your job. Sometimes we get paid as much as doctor or lawyers for what we're doing, right? And we need to be on top of our game and educated and proficient. I write for the local paper, and the article just came out today, and that was one of the biggest things I stressed is when you're hiring an agent, do they know the market? Do they understand what's happening? And do they understand how to best suit your needs? And those needs could be vary. I've had some very high-end clients where their need was they wanted the house no matter what. No matter what. So they wanted me, they said, what number should we offer? And no pressure there, right? And they didn't want escalation clauses. So I had to know the market. And we bought houses a couple $100,000 over asking price when those situations happen. Or if you're with a first-time home buyer and they're working with a chattel loan, what are the requirements for that? And what does that timeline look like? So how do we take care of them, make them feel secure that we know how we're taking care of them best? And to me, it all goes back to, as it always has, as to education, educating yourself, and serving. That's what we need to do. Because we're all humans. Got to take care of each other.
Well, and I think when you go into the caring part too, and you were talking about understanding the client's needs, right? There's different things, and obviously some things go into fair housing, but there are people that, their family needs certain things. They're retiring. They're maybe a first-time home buyer with a VA loan. There's going to be so many different factors. So can you kind of go into what that kind of looks like meeting the client's needs? Because, right, everyone says, the transaction deal looks the same across the board regardless. But at the same time, and, I had said this in a previous podcast, is there's this emotional intelligence that you kind of need to have to be able to help your client to the max.
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest thing is this is not about you or me. I'm a real estate professional. This has nothing to do with what I need out of this transaction. I don't walk in with a script. I don't even have, you're going to die with, I don't even have a listing presentation because I don't do it. I show up. I know. I show up. This is why Savannah is so organized. She has everything organized, but I've never done that just because I show up and I'm just authentically me. And sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. But the bottom line is this. I'm not scripted in life. I'm not going to be scripted when I meet you. I'm here to serve you and meet your needs. If I'm in a divorce situation where I walk into a room and there's a couple and they're both sitting at the table and they're really mad about this, I'm going to handle things a little differently versus if I walk into a place like, and they're crazy, there's just so many different scenarios. So I just look at the person. It's about the person and their goals. What is their objective? What are they trying to do? What is their timeline? And what is their personality? Because that also dictates how I handle, not handle them, but how we communicate. Because some people don't want you to communicate too much. They don't want to be bothered. Other people want to talk to you 3 and 4 times a day. And what does that look like? And so what I've learned over my 26 years is setting up those healthy expectations in the beginning. So as soon as we meet, I'm like, how do you like to be communicated to? Do you like text message? Do you like phone calls? Some people hate text messages and only want phone calls. So how do we meet them where they're needing to be met and help them achieve their goals? And so again, it's about them. And so that's how I handle every different person. I've had a lot of senior citizens lately, and that's a tricky one. You have to have so much love and compassion and understanding, because when they're selling off and patience, when they're selling off their family farm that they lived at their whole life with their husband who just passed away, and now they have to make a choice and move into a home that is all new and they're doing it on their own. I mean, I have goosebumps thinking about that. This is big, heavy stuff, and we're taking care of souls. We're taking care of people. And that's how I treat every situation. It's just with absolute kindness and compassion. And even people that, some clients are unsavory, let's admit it. Some people are not so fun to work with. However, they're still people. And I just look at them as they have a wounding somewhere in there. Something's happened in their life that caused them to be this way. So I just try to show up at my very highest and best I can for them each and every time.
I love that.
Thank you.
So One other thing I want to bring up in this podcast too is obviously everything you do for clients, but I wanted to also tap into what you're doing for the community and how that built your business. Because for those that don't know, my mom was in the Front Range and then she moved to Montrose, Colorado, and kind of had to restart your
Yeah.
business in some way, right? And so for anyone that is like relocating, moving to a new area, that can be scary. And it's like, okay, how do I get my business up and going? Or even for new agents. So tell me about your community involvement and how that's kind of grown your business.
Sure, sure. Well, I think, touching back to the Front Range, so what I left there, and it was scary to leave because I was generating as a single solo agent about 15 million a year on my own. I could walk down the street and pick up a client. And it was just kind of natural, but the Front Range had a lot more people and a lot more opportunity there. So moving over to Montrose, Colorado, and we're technically Delta mailing Montrose County, Olathe Township. The Western Slope is absolutely magnificent, but they're small farming. They historically were small farming communities, so hard to break into. So the very first thing I did is what I normally do is I got on the Delta County Planning Commission was the first thing that I did, and I wanted to jump in feet first, I guess, and figure out this community, like what made it tick, and learn more about it. I was voraciously inhaling all the knowledge, and then I did a video series called Western Slope Vibe. I found a videographer. And I had only been here a couple months. I'm like, all right, videographer, Isabel Otis. She did a great job and she's still an amazing videographer. I said, let's go interview businesses. So we went to Stars Guitars and we went to tattoo places and we went all over the Western Slope here doing interviews so I could introduce myself and I would pay the videographer and it was free to the companies, the businesses. So that was a huge hit and got us a lot of traction out there on the Facebook world. And I jumped on the Chamber of Commerce right away. And all that was going really great. And all of a sudden, my husband and I had this calling where we both had to start a nonprofit. So we started Sovereign Roots, which is a 501c3 veterans retreat here on our 30-acre property. And we overlook the West Elks, the San Juans, the Grand Mesa. We have a river. And this property is just so beautiful. We said, we have to share this with people. It's like almost too much to keep to ourselves. So having dealt with PTSD myself and moral injury, both of us, we said, we have overcome these obstacles and how can we help other people do it? And we just felt it was natural to start our veterans retreat here. And so currently we have 6 cabins, 4 teepees, and we're collaborating with the VA and it's blossomed into something absolutely amazing. I do encourage people, if you want to check this out more, it's at sovereignrootsretreats.org and check out our mission. It's pretty incredible what we're doing. So that's one, and I'm going to get to answer your question here in just a minute. And then I was teaching boxing one day, somatic boxing with some women, because it's a great way to release trauma and stress and get things out of your body. And some kids saw me boxing and they said, well, can we box too? And I said, sure. So we started teaching them. Well, it just became a calling and we started the Delta Youth Foundation, which is a local foundation that our first flagship program is our boxing program. And our ultimate goal is to build a roller rink one day. But there was, rural communities have very little for kids to do, just very little. And so if they're not near a big city, you don't have the opportunities that are available in the bigger cities. And so we just found the need that we had to start both of these organizations. And it's been pretty selfless and tiring at some points, running all these programs. However, the feedback that's happened, we've changed kids' lives. We had one veteran tell us that we saved her life. It's endless, the impact that we've had. And when we go out, people who see us, they know us as the Love Mores, and because we're living better and loving more. But community service, in my opinion, is the #1 way to a successful real estate business. We don't talk about real estate at boxing. We don't talk about real estate at Sovereign Roots, but people know the service that we're providing. And therefore I get calls all the time because we're just out there serving. And for any agent that is struggling with business, go find an organization, any organization. And here's the trick. You ready for the trick? You got to commit for a year. You got to commit for a year. So what's Rotary? Rotary is kind of a service organization, but whatever service organization you join, you're going to commit for a year and you're going to actually work at it. You're not going to just show up and say, hi, I'm so-and-so with such and such real estate, because that's gross, right? Everyone can smell that inauthenticity. You're going to show up and actually serve. And when you show up and actually serve, well, it's just energy that all comes back to you, right? If you're serving with a selfish gain, you're not going to get anything back to you. But if you're actually serving to serve, then it comes back to you. So that's my biggest tip to anybody struggling with business is serve and genuinely serve.
Yeah.
And that just reciprocates.
I love that. Can you touch, I'd love for people to know about the community event that you did for the Polar
Oh,
Express.
oh, so that was super fun. Well,
Yeah.
so Delta, Colorado has one of the last remaining drive-in movie theaters, and I forget how many there are. There's very few, but so we have one here. It's the TrueView Drive-In, owned by Charlie Mason, and he moved here and opened it up, reopened it up, and we become friends. He's a local business owner, owns several buildings and such. But I had this idea. I said, you know what, Charlie, like drive-in's shut down. Why don't we do a Christmas movie where everyone can come and we'll get some hot chocolate and cookies and we'll do a Christmas movie. And he's like, okay, okay. And he said, well, what movie do you want to watch? I'm like, whatever you can get. You know, this like kind of last minute, a month before it. He's like, how about Polar Express? And I said, oh, that'd be perfect. Well, then my brain boo, how it gets going.
Oh,
And
I
I said,
know.
Polar Express. Well, we need silver bells and we need golden tickets and we need a Santa Claus. So within 3 weeks, we put together this big community event at the Drive-In Movie Theater in December. And he opened up the concession stand. We had a local coffee shop donate hot chocolate to us. And one of our agents baked a bunch of sugar cookies. And then Charlie inside the concession stand was selling hamburgers and such. He had a line out the door. It was the busiest event. My husband dressed up as Santa Claus. And we had close to 200 people show up to that event. And we passed out golden tickets when they arrived. We passed out silver bells. They watched Polar Express right before the movie. I was up there on the big screen saying, thank you so much for coming. You know, and all the proceeds from that went to Delta Youth Foundation. So it wasn't about Lovemore Real Estate. It was about going back to Delta Youth Foundation, although it was sponsored by Lovemore Real Estate because it was. And that was a super, super fun event. And I've done similar things just surrounding giveaways and that sort of thing, where we'll do a giveaway. And, you know, I think some other agents have spoke about this type of thing, but I always try to make an event that connects the community and puts us together so that we just have a better sense, because a better sense of community makes life better for all. But that event, that Polar Express event, so now I saw a gentleman about a week after that happened in December. He's like, please tell me you're doing that again next year. And I'm like, it's already in the works. I'm like, we're working on getting reindeer and a sleigh, and it's going to be amazing. So next year is going to be amazing. But what a cool thing that was to do. And now it's going to be a tradition.
Yeah. No, it was, from all the photos that I saw, I unfortunately wasn't there because we were coming out actually the following week to go on the Polar Express, ironically enough. It's one of our traditions. So I think part of it too was knowing that being part of our tradition. I think it obviously excited you. And sometimes, like, when you have something you're connected to like that, it can grow it so naturally. And to have 200 people your first year, and you did it in a month.
Yeah. Like 3 weeks really, because everyone was like, oh, I didn't hear about it. I'm like, I'm so sorry, I just came up with it. So, and
so next year.
Yeah. So next year we'll start promoting pretty, we're in the parade this year too as well. And that's really where we got a lot of people is the parade was right, we scheduled that right after the parade, and this was intentional. And we did a float for our parade and we passed out the flyers. We had 2 helpers walking down the side passing out flyers for the whole parade. So I think that's really what generated the interest that we got.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was fun. It was super fun.
So with everything you do, how do you avoid burnout or just wanting to be like, okay, this is too much, like something's got to go? Like how do you do it?
Well, you know, again, that's an ebb and a flow, right? I tried to quit the Delta Youth Foundation boxing thing twice, and it was just too much for me. And it was overwhelming. And then I had a mom call me up and wanted to donate a boxing bag because her son had committed suicide. So I was like, okay, I'll keep going. And then a couple months later, I was really burnt out again. And I had another mom call me who lost both of her children to fentanyl. And I said, you know, rural youth, this is, you know, Delta County has the highest suicide rate in Colorado. Mm-hmm. And it's a shame because it's beautiful here and there's recreation everywhere and the weather's gorgeous, but there's not a lot of programs for kids. So that really kept me going. And so when I do that, I mean, I definitely, as you know, huge outdoor enthusiast. If I don't get into the woods or to the mesa or to the canyons or the river or skiing, if I don't get there at least once a week, I am a wreck. And so sometimes I will go a couple weeks and then I'm like, okay, we need to pull the plug. Even an afternoon out in nature is really what helps. And then also I like to go spend time with the animals, your old horse, Sweet Pea. And I like taking care of my chickens. We have goats and sheep. I find it very grounding to just get out there and spend time with the animals and leave my phone at the house for a couple minutes. And I have a wonderful husband who supports me entirely, which is wonderful. If I need anything, I can ask him for help. And we just, you know, just just finding time to take a breath and back off, and sometimes meditate, and sometimes say no. Say, I'm sorry, I am busy, I cannot do that day. But the nice thing about having agents is that I can call agents and say, hey, can you go show this house for me, or do something like that too? So, it's just, I think it's an intricate web. You're weaving life. You're like weaving all these things together, and nothing's ever static. The only thing constant is change. And all we can do is just breathe and follow the flow like the river that we are. And to me, that's more empowering than trying to stop, do something else. Like, it's just flow. I guess it's more flow. I think I talked that out. I figured out how I do it. Thanks.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Well, and it is so hard, right? Because like what we talked about at the beginning is, when we want balance, people want flexibility and all this when they get into the industry, and that's not necessarily what happens. There's slow seasons, there's busy seasons, and sometimes, like the past 5 weeks were pure insanity for me. And yet I'm entering into a week that I'm going to be a little more quiet just due to some personal things. And I look forward to that, and I'm going to cherish that time of having kind of that peace. And that allows me then to come back and be able to hit the ground running. And so, like you said, going out, taking care of the chickens or being with the horses, even if it's for 10 minutes, it can be such a reset, because otherwise you sit in front of your computer and you just spin and spin and spin and spin. Oh, this has to get done. This has to get done.
Well, rest is restoration. So when you rest, you restore. And you cannot be 110% all the time, because just again, the black and white, the yin and the yang, the beautifulness of life. I mean, life for everyone watching this, there's some really tragic things I'm sure that have been in your life. And I bet there's some really high moments in your life. You have to have both to appreciate, everything just can't be beautiful all the time, and everything's not going to be ugly all the time either. So it's finding out, just, okay, maybe today's a little bit off, and I'm going to rest. I'm going to restore myself. And I think for me, the biggest part is I always feel guilty when I do that. I feel guilty that I took some time off. And that's something I've really been working on still to this day is, okay, I'm taking this time off, and it's okay. Or I don't have anything to do today, which really doesn't happen anymore. But let's say it did. It's okay to not have a stacked calendar. You got to hear yourself breathe. And if I always check myself the other day, I'm like, am I breathing? Are things happening here, or am I holding my breath and gutting through everything? Because that breath, when we're born, you inhale, and when you die, you exhale, and everything in between is breathing. And so following that breath, letting that flow, restoring, these are all very important pieces to show up and to care for people the way we need to care for people. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's about. It's a cliche, you can't show up with a half empty cup. You have to fill your cup up. Otherwise you have nothing left to give. And that's in today's world with its fast pace, that's even more important now than ever has been, because the world's just very fast now.
It is. Yeah. So last question. How do you want people to feel when they think of your name in the community?
Well, my hope is that they feel safe if I'm handling any of their affairs, that they feel that they trust me, that they feel seen. I think I'd like them, when they hear Michelle Roberts say, I want them to say, I really feel seen when I talk to Michelle, or I know she cares. When I'm with her, she cares about me. I really try to be 100% present when I'm with people and set all my distractions aside. And that's really the big thing, is that I'm not thinking about what I'm going to say next. I'm really listening to what they're saying. So I guess seen and heard, maybe those two words. I want people to feel seen and heard when they hear my name. And I'm just grateful I'm so grateful for this business and for our community and for everything that I've been blessed and able to do in this lifetime. It's been really great. And raising you has been one of my best achievements ever.
Okay.
We have to fit in the last line. So that as we end here, there is a phrase that we need the world to know, because yes.
Okay.
So we can learn all of this stuff.
Yes. So this phrase that is about to be blessed on all your ears is something that I grew up with, and I actually ended up using it in a situation. And I remember looking back and I was like, oh, my mom is right. And it was just one of those moments. But yet I think it's a good thing to remember when you're going through anything, right? If you're taking a training, if you're in a situation.
It could even be your diet. So should you be eating bags of potato chips? You shouldn't, right?
Shouldn't.
Not
Yeah.
you, not that you do it, but hypothetically. So, and working out, we all know we should probably exercise every day.
Right.
A little, move our bodies. A body in motion stays in motion. And we all know that we should really listen to our client and see where we can meet them and
Right.
see how we can best serve them and not think about ourselves selfishly. But as we know,
knowing and doing are two different things.
amen. And that's the truth. And so I even use that for myself all the time, because we all get off center. I'm not perfect, and I know what to do. I know the right thing. Now do it. That's really, and that goes back to our service too, with the foundations and all that. I know we needed to do this. No one was doing it, so we did it. And know it and do it.
Know it and do it.
Yep. I love you.
Love you too. So, well, thank you, Mom, for being a guest on our podcast.
It's my honor.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. I know this was kind of a fun episode because obviously I know my mom super well. But I hope that you, through this podcast, understand how serving and showing up for your clients matters so much, how to be an expert, and how to be involved in your community to be a staple of someone that cares. So thank you for everything you do for your community. I know we love coming out there every time, and it's your farm obviously is very peaceful. It's where I go to be able to actually connect a little bit.
I love to see you unplugged too. It's nice to see you. Now, just so you'll know, she still gets up at 6 and does all her computer work every morning, but it's nice to see her relax.
I'm up at 4:15. I just start on my computer.
Well, when I get up at 6 and I see you there, but you're a hard worker, and I like to see you relax too. So it's always wonderful.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you all for listening, and thank you, Mom, for being here. And we will see you guys next time for our next episode.
Thank you for having me.